No. Okay. So hello. This is gonna be a short little video where me and Liam talk about what's going on right now. Obviously, this is kind of an unprecedented event with with the coronavirus. It's pretty crazy. Uh, there's a lot of like things circulating around. But yeah, I think we're just gonna be here and give our opinions on what's going on.
Sure. I'll go first.
Yeah.
I think this is sort of, I hate to say interesting because obviously a lot of people's livelihoods and lives themselves are at stake here, but this is sort of an interesting experiment, I guess, into, seeing how we can respond to a virus in the modern age of advanced epidemiology. And
Hmm.
so I think what the government's doing is correct. I think we need to be taking as many precautions as possible. Um, Social distancing and closing down non-essential businesses and encouraging people to stay home.
Hmm.
All very good things. And although to kind of talk about the stimulus, although in general I'm opposed to uh, such massive government intervention in the economy.
Hmm.
In this case, I think it's warranted because the government has is really the only entity I think that can, uh, protect public health in a meaningful way. Like the when I say public health, I mean the health of the nation as a whole.
Hmm.
Um, and also, since the government is the one who is encouraging people to, shut down their businesses, uh, it should also be the one who has to foot the bill.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think when we talk about like the situation we're in now, there has to be a balance because obviously, this economic shutdown is really, or this shutdown we have overall is really important because we want to stop the disease from spreading or the virus from spreading as fast as possible, so we can limit the amount of deaths we have. But also, we have to realize that there is a lot of like really bad impacts from shutting down, and a lot of people are like that have maybe like other pre-existing conditions or get sick or are in need of help. They'll like with these shutdowns they can be put in like really bad spots, or a lot of people can die just because of the shutdown itself, not from the coronavirus. So there has to be like a kind of balance. So that's why I think something like the stimulus bill is really important. And because like without this kind of stuff, people are not gonna be able to like buy food when they need it, or like yeah. So I think yeah, when you're definitely right when they talk about with the government shutting us down, it needs to make sure that everyone in this like can get what they need, especially when we have so little like agency, I guess, in control. Like some people are just like really could be really screwed over from what's been happening. A lot of people like losing their jobs and so on. And so, yeah, I definitely think we have to make sure that everything's getting addressed on both sides and we are balancing. And obviously, I also believe that we need to be giving as much support to like the people that are still working now, like grocers, obviously health workers for sure, and pretty much everyone. But yeah.
yeah, I'd also like to add that I also think that, you know, this virus, probably the most important part that a lot of people actually aren't talking about is ramping up production so that we can not only not only do we want to lower the curve, so to speak, but we also want to raise
Mhm.
the line of our capacity
Yeah,
to treat people. And
that's very true.
obviously that doesn't directly affect most people in the way that all social distancing and stay at home, but I think it's arguably more important. So
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. That is a thing that not a lot of people talk about, but we definitely need to make sure. And I remember I don't know much. I haven't looked into it that much, but I do hear about like I remember like hearing stories about China like um, making like makeshift hospitals in like under a day and stuff like that, and like yeah, production at all levels, whether it be like hospitals or like like food and protective equipment, all that definitely does need to be ramped up so we can prepare for, I guess, the worst as far as the virus spreading.
right.
but definitely, yeah. So I also, what you said this at the very beginning, but I also am kind of interested by like the, not just interested, but also like kind of worried about like the impact that this will have on the future. Like it's really hard to tell like what's going to be happening like just like a month or 2 months from now. Like will we still be in quarantine? Like will the quarantine have been effective? Like how will everyone be faring? Like, will this stimulus package be able to prop everyone up for that long? Stuff like that. But yeah, I'm also really interested and also kind of worried about how it'll affect the like upcoming election. Obviously, like I'm pretty invested in that election, and I'm I'm curious, but also worried about like what could happen. Like I don't know. It's be if this is still a problem in the later months. We'll have to see how it affects like campaigns and stuff.
Yeah.
Um,
Honestly, oh, sorry.
Go ahead. That was
Uh,
all.
honestly, I think the coronavirus will become a cyclical thing, just like the flu.
Yeah, I think
Uh,
it's very possible.
yeah, that's my prediction. But I am by no means a public health expert, so
Yeah. Yep. I think since this is like kind of political, we should might as well talk about how we feel like specifically like American response was, because that's been kind of a big thing. Like I am part of the group. I think that while there's things coming out now that are good, that Trump's response was like extremely slow, and I do understand why people would be reserved in doing like full shutdowns and stuff like that. But to think that only like 2 3 weeks ago was when we first started shutting down travel, except for China, which had been shut down a month ago or a couple months ago, um, was very like I don't know. I just don't think it was handled very well, and I don't. Maybe the virus spreading throughout America now America is the leading country in amount of cases. I think just as of like yesterday, maybe. Um,
yeah, we surpassed China yesterday.
yeah.
Italy.
I that probably with how big America was and how connected to the other world may have been inevitable. But I feel like there were precautions that we could have taken. And I think there was a lot of the politicizing of this from the very beginning. I think was very negative. Like and I think this was kind of his quote was kind of misrepresented, but talking about it being a Democratic hoax, I think was pretty ridiculous. But now the thing about that was I think it was misquoted. I don't think he's like obviously. I don't believe him or the other people talking about it thought the virus didn't exist or whatever. But I think when he was talking about that, he was talking about how the threat of the virus
Yeah,
was made way much. But I think even that clearly was. I think the
sorry.
threat was very present and real and not anywhere like getting upplayed. And I'm just pretty disappointed with our response overall. But yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Part of the reason, that I think it has surpassed the levels in China, is that we actually live in a free society, unlike the Chinese.
Mm-hmm.
But but yes, I certainly agree that Trump's response, at least at first, was pretty lackluster, and was far too slow. If I were him, obviously hindsight is 2020, but I think I would have at least started ramping up production of ventilators and
Mm-hmm.
ICU beds and things like that
Yeah.
almost immediately as soon as it became such a big deal in China.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. I do agree with. Wait, oh crap! What did you say? Wait, God, was the first? How did I space on that? What did you just say?
uh,
But it was
what
like one of the first things you said.
about how China is not a free
Oh
society
yes,
and we
that's it.
are.
Yeah, so that is a thing I would like a good stipulation. Like they're obviously authoritarian, so like they can pretty much force their population to do whatever, which is different from America. Americans aren't always going to listen to this. Um, I think that there should have been, and not, a lot of people like might fundamentally agree. You might fundamentally agree with this. And normally I'm fairly libertarian, but in this case, I feel like heavy like enforcement. So like I know like I think it might have been Taiwan had like fines up to $30,000 for breaking like social distancing and quarantine. And I know there are some fines in America, but I definitely think while it is true that I think the reason why China was able to slow down, like for a few days, I think they had a second resurgence, but I think maybe about a week ago there was like a day where they didn't have a single new confirmed case. But that definitely is partly because of how much control they have, which is not obviously possible in America. But I think for a threat such as this, people should be more willing to listen to the government than they are normally for the safety of themselves and other people. But I do think that does make it harder for America. It's hard to compare it to China because of that. Can't quite respond in the same way. But I do think there is a lot of ways that it could have responded better.
Yeah, and just to kind of add to that, I don't know exactly how true this statement is, but my dad has a lot of coworkers who have traveled to China in the past for business. He said that most, if not all, of the buildings or parks or anything in China has a fence around it, and they were basically just like you were not allowed to go through the fence if you didn't. If you blew or if you were running a temperature or anything like that, or running a fever rather, they just wouldn't let you in.
Yeah,
so,
they were already really strict. Is what you're trying to say?
No, I don't know, about the veracity of that statement, but it sounds like something China would do. So
yeah, that is true. Yeah, definitely. But yeah. I don't know. I'm trying to think of what else, if there's anything else to really talk about as far as the coronavirus. It definitely, it's crazy how much it has put a stop to everything. It's really unprecedented.
And how fast it all happened too.
Mm-hmm. I think another crazy thing is the amount of misinformation that kind of permeates, and it's so I think this is obviously something that we kind of experience a lot, especially in America and in politics, where there's a lot of maybe not even misinformation, but biased information or kind of misrepresented information that we see even in major news media or and stuff like that. We see that a lot, but I think it seems to be on a whole nother level with coronavirus, where you really have to kind of double check almost everything you hear. Even probably there might be even incorrect statements that we've said in here, and I don't and just a lot of misinformation has been getting spread around, and I don't know. I remember I have a family chat, and my brother's girlfriend is a nurse that's been actually working to in the ICU to help these people, and so they had direct contact and has been telling us more about it. But a lot of the information we've been spreading or been sharing with one another has ended up being not true.
And also a lot of the studies that first came out predicting calamitous of deaths and such have proven to be inaccurate, and so we just have to wait on more information to come in.
Yeah.
To really make these predictions. So. Yeah, that certainly is a problem the media, loves to create hysteria.
Definitely.
So.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely seems that's another thing that I kind of forgot about is, I think Trump's, going back to what we said before, I think Trump's had a really bad response. I don't think it was solely his fault. I remember when the coronavirus first started being confirmed in America, with the first couple cases. I remember the CDC had some really bad. I think some of the first tests they had were completely inaccurate and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And they just didn't seem to be prepared. And maybe there's other underlying reasons that caused that. I'm not super I don't know that much about it, but I did know that. So can't make sure we know where the problems are exactly coming from.
Yeah, from what I've heard, the CDC director didn't exactly do a great job.
Yeah.
Dealing with the coronavirus either.
Yep. Yeah, but yeah. Anything else you have to add?
No, I think that's it.
All right. Cool. All right, so we'll probably end it here, and then I think the next thing we'll have out is another podcast. So I'll see you then.
Thanks for watching, guys.